This is a three-part series on targeting and fires. Part 1 is concepts and verbs, Part 2 is on the targeting cycle, and Part 3 covers intelligence support to targeting. Each of these series will have three elements to them. A video lesson that you can follow along. Should be short, take about 10 minutes or so to actually watch that. Then after that, there's a lesson that's going to be related to the video to go through the concepts and learn the various component parts. And then third, there's an exercise associated with each of these three elements. I just want to talk about lesson 1 for a second. The verbs in slide 7 are difficult but important to understand. It's necessary to understand these and be able to talk to them with credibility so that you can be concise in how you're describing what needs to be accomplished. Don't get too hung up on it. It'll come over time. Come back to the video as required and use the notes that come along with the video. Discuss this with your colleagues and practice it. It's a good exercise to understand, but keep in mind that particularly targeting objectives are higher level concepts and don't necessarily apply to day-to-day fires issues for intelligence support to fires or targeting. As Canadians, we will struggle with some of these concepts in the video, particularly this video, because it's well above the brigade level. Targeting objectives are set by the battle space commander, owner, and the brigade participates in these concepts or enables them, but generally speaking, it's the larger fires concept, joint fires, and targeting that actually support targeting objectives. Lastly, have fun with the video. I had some fun making this. I've used mostly artificial intelligence to do most of the work, except for this part, which it's actually me. None of the avatars in the rest of the video are me, or throughout the other lessons. So I'm interested in your feedback on this, and I'll make tweaks. There's about slide 4 or 5. It's 20-year-old me wearing my artillery uniform and my mess kit. It's hilarious. I left it in. It's not very good, but it's funny, so I hope it will entertain you and keep you watching the video. Feel free to mock me on Discord or YouTube. I think it's quite fun. So have a good time with it, learn from it, provide some feedback. I'm looking forward to making these better.
Targeting combines intelligence functions, planning battle command, weaponeering, operational execution, and combat assessment. The decide, detect, deliver, and assess methodology facilitates the attack of the right target with the right asset at the right time. The targeting process provides an effective method for matching the friendly force capabilities against enemy targets. Targeting is a dynamic process. It must keep up with the changing face of the battlefield. The brigade battle is essentially the division close battle. It is shaped by targeting actions at higher levels. The brigade staff uses the targeting products of the division. Division-level taskings are integrated into the brigade targeting process. Brigade targeting addresses assets under brigade control. The HPTL and AGM/EGM at brigade and TF usually are more detailed and focused. They provide the information with the sensor or observer and an attack system required to identify and attack HPTs. Targeting at the brigade and battalion level is less formal than at higher headquarters. However, the concept of the targeting process is still valid and useful. The brigade uses or modifies the existing brigade HPTL, AGM, and other targeting products. HPTs may be reflected on the brigade DST and addressed in a synchronization matrix. The synchronization matrix should also reflect the association of observers with HPTs and the designation of attack systems. Targeting functions at the brigade and TF levels include the following: develop the HPTL, develop attack guidance, establish TSS, nominate targets to higher headquarters, develop and synchronize the reconnaissance and surveillance plan, synchronize maneuver and fire support, integrate counter-mobility, mobility, and survivability operations, receive and evaluate BDA, monitor fire support systems and ammunition, develop and synchronize the reconnaissance and surveillance plan with the fire support plan, focus on positioning observers early to support the top-down fire plan. Brigade plans, including plans to support targeting, must be simple but contain sufficient detail so that subordinate units can execute them with precision and vigor. Rehearsals are critical for success on the battlefield. Planning time must be allocated for trials. Rehearsals clarify the fire plan for observers, sensor operators, attack system managers, and the maneuver units they support. They facilitate the synchronization of maneuvers with fire support. Targeting objectives. Military targeting objectives are specific targets that are selected for attack during military operations. These objectives are carefully chosen based on the mission and goals of the military operation and are intended to achieve a specific military outcome. Targets can be divided into two main categories: tactical targets and strategic targets. Tactical targets are short-term objectives that are focused on achieving specific military goals, such as neutralizing enemy forces or seizing key terrain. Strategic targets are long-term objectives that aim to affect the overall course of a conflict, such as disrupting the enemy's ability to command and control their forces, or destroying critical infrastructure. The selection of targets is a complex process that involves a range of factors, including the enemy's capabilities, their defensive posture, the terrain and geography of the battlefield, and the availability of weapons and other resources. Targets are also selected based on their potential impact on the overall course of the conflict, taking into account both military and political considerations. Once targets have been identified, they are analyzed to determine the best method of attack. This may involve a variety of weapons and tactics depending on the nature of the target and the resources available to the attacking force. Success is measured in terms of the impact on the enemy's ability to conduct operations, the degree of damage inflicted, and the extent to which the mission objectives have been achieved. The objectives of targeting must be articulated simply yet authoritatively. The objectives must be easily understood across the combined and joint environment of future operations. Targeting objectives must focus assets on enemy capabilities that could interfere with achieving friendly objectives. Targeting objectives are commonly expressed in terms of the fire support missions of limit, disrupt, and delay. Interdiction objectives also express targeting objectives such as destroy, divert, disrupt, and delay. Terms such as limit, disrupt, delay, divert, and destroy are used to describe the effects of attack on enemy capabilities. They should not be confused with the terms harass, suppress, neutralize, or destroy. These terms are used as attack criteria to determine the degree of damage or duration of effects on a specific target. The terms are not mutually exclusive. Actions associated with one objective may also support other objectives.
Effect limit. Limit enemy capabilities applies to reducing the options or courses of action available to the enemy commander. For example, the commander may direct the use of air interdiction and fire support to limit the use of one or more avenues of approach available to the enemy. Also, the commander may direct the use of interdiction to limit enemy use of fire support capability. To limit capabilities implies we also disrupt enemy plans by precluding effective interaction or the cohesion of enemy combat and combat support systems. Regarding Air Force interdiction doctrine, disrupt forces the enemy into less efficient and more vulnerable dispositions.
Delay alters the arrival time of forces at a point on the battlefield or the ability of the enemy to project combat power from a point on the battlefield. In interdiction doctrine, delay results from disrupting, diverting, or destroying enemy capabilities or targets. Divert is an interdiction objective which addresses the commander's desire to tie up critical enemy resources. Attack of certain interdiction targets may result in the enemy commander's diverting capabilities or assets from one area or activity to another. Divert indirectly reduces the capability of the enemy commander to continue their plans. Diversion is the act of diverting an enemy's attention from one objective to another by using available forces.
Destroy. Destroy as an interdiction objective calls for ruining the structure, organic existence, or condition of an enemy target that is essential to an enemy's capability. Describing destruction as an objective requires establishing specific quantities or percentages within the ability of the weapon system or systems. For example, artillery commonly uses 30% as the criteria for destruction, whereas maneuver combat forces typically use 70%.